The nonprofit MBA purpose is to provide new business insights and fresh creative ideas for executive directors and their teams that will help them improve their organization. Here is your host, Stephen Halasnik.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Stephen Halasnik. I'll be your host for today's Nonprofit MBA podcast, and I am the co-founder of Financing Solutions. And Financing Solutions since 2012 has been the largest provider of lines of credit to small nonprofits in the United States. If you're interested in learning more about a line of credit for your nonprofit, please visit our website at nonprofitmbapodcast.com. Again, that's nonprofitmbapodcast.com. And today I'm very excited to be speaking with Garrett Goldman from State WP. And today we're going to be covering keys to a fast, secure, and reliable website for nonprofits. And anybody who's had an issue with their website knows that it's a big pain in the neck. What I've learned with my own company is to get ahead of it before the issues actually come up. So we're going to be talking about that today. So a little bit about Garrett. Garrett Goldman is the co-founder and CEO of State WP, a company that secures, maintains, and optimizes mission-critical WordPress websites for nonprofits. After founding and working inside nonprofits himself, Garrett saw firsthand how fragile most organization websites really are. Today, he helps leadership teams reduce operational risk, protect donor trust, and prevent costly website failures by treating their site as critical infrastructures rather than a one-time project. Garrett, welcome to today's Nonprofit MBA podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
So, the first question I'm going to ask you is horror stories. And when you have maybe been brought on after the fact, what are typically some of the horror stories that you've seen that you've had to fix?
Yeah, horror stories usually result in scrambling and anxiety, and everyone wants to avoid that. The most common ones we've seen would be something like malware being installed in the site, downtime, or a vendor disappearing. All three of those horror experiences create just a really frantic environment within the organization.
Yeah, and then some of the ones that I've seen too is like, if you're using certain plugins, the plugins either weren't updated or they were updated and no one knew, and the site doesn't work like it was, and it took you for a while to figure out that your donors weren't able to donate money. Is that one that's come up?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's a really great one. I mean, security. So generally speaking, the plugin updates are done for a few different reasons, either for new bells and whistles or security or performance. And those the security failures really damage trust long before they damage the technology. And so not only would a donation page not work, which limits the amount of fundraising that's taking place, but it also can really damage the brand.
Yeah. And all this is stuff that's happened to me. So, I mean, what I noticed was a number of years ago, not a number, maybe 2 years ago, maybe it's more, I don't know. The model for having a designer, a web designer, it moved to a maintenance model, where now you bring on somebody who, for a minimum amount of money on a monthly basis, just makes sure that everything's going well on your website, and that includes, of course, plugins as well. Is that correct? Have you noticed that too?
Yeah, well, I've noticed kind of a bifurcation in that web design and development companies still exist, and then they often offer that product as a kind of an add-on, an afterthought. They do some of the plugin updates. It's not really something they're focused on. And where we really differentiate is that this is all we do. We are a premium service. We focus on long-term support, not one-off redesigns or fixes. And we really have an infrastructure mindset. So I have noticed that, and we have created an opportunity for these organizations to actually get the service that they need rather than just be an afterthought with a design company.
So, a lot of people listen today are either executive directors or they could be, in charge of the website or, IT type of people. Um, you know, what are some of the advice that you would give to people to make sure that, that their site is fast, secure, and reliable?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're going to have to use some measurements, right? So you're looking at uptime reliability, page speed and performance, security incident reduction, conversions through the donation or lead forms. And if you don't have a plan in place, most most likely, there are issues. So my advice would be to really understand whether or not that plan is in place, and then seek help or create some internal workflows to make sure that it's being focused on.
And keep in mind there are some other important external factors that could affect you if your site's not reliable or fast. One being Google, or let's also I put AI into that too. One of the evaluations that Google will do in search engines is to see how fast your site coming up, and how reliable it is. And if your site is not at that speed that Google feels it's fast, it will it'll knock your search engine rankings down. Is that still correct?
Absolutely correct. Speed is a user experienced issue and also a potential revenue issue because you're not showing up in search, whether it's Google or AI. There are the technical indicators that Google uses, including page speed. So the performance is really important, not just for the user experience. If your donor is coming to your website and a page is slowly loading, they are very likely to bounce off of the page. But also, if your page is not loading optimally, Google may not serve it up in a high result, or AI may not find it cited as often. So yeah, performance is a key metric that must be monitored.
I Websites have been around a long time, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
Um, how have they changed?
Oh, wow. They've changed so much. So I'm 48 years old, and I really started getting into the web when I was about 15. So mid 90s. And, back then they were flat. They were pushed from one side. In other words, there was no kind of back and forth. There was no such thing as blogs or social media. And I think most importantly, there was no mobile. And so a website was pushed out to us from companies. It didn't have to resize for different devices. There was no back and forth between your audience or customers or donors and the organization themselves. And quite frankly, the style and bandwidth and speed has changed too. A website from the early days compared to a website today is night and day.
You, you know, uh, Many of the nonprofits out there have donations on their website. Of course, almost all of them would. Those donation places to to donate, those are usually third party companies, correct?
Um, They can be oftentimes. I don't have the data in front of me to know whether or not it's usually, but most of our clients do use a third party payment process. Well, they're always third party payment processors, but I think you're referring to the companies that focus on collecting donations for nonprofits specifically. Is that right?
Well, usually I'm talking about the plugin that you have on your website that's usually run by a third party.
Oftentimes,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and so it's kind of a leading question, and
Correct.
that
Yes.
is,
Oftentimes it is, and
yeah. Sorry.
unless they're processing their own payments, that is correct. They are often third parties. And I'm sorry, I didn't hear the follow up part of that question.
Well, it's okay. So, I mean, I'm leading toward this one question, which is when we're talking about secure, you know, isn't it that plugin company's responsibility to ensure that the donors are providing information that's secure?
Well, it's a really interesting question. It would depend, I suppose, on the plugin and what their service level agreement is for the organization that is using that plugin as far as guarantees are concerned. Where we would come in is making sure that that plugin is working the way it's supposed to work. If you are using a third-party system and it goes down, which happens all the time on the web. In fact, I just got notification today that there are issues with Cloudflare, which has happened a couple times in the last 6 months. It's really out of the end user's control. But with a firm like ours, we are making sure that updates are performed so that it is always working when the third-party service is working.
So, are there services out there that will monitor your website to show you that something is down on it, including a plugin?
There are, absolutely. So we, of course, use one of those. We monitor sites 24/7, 365, and there are different plugin options out there that do that. Essentially, they're monitoring for anomalies in the server response time, so uptime or downtime, and then you would get some sort of notification that explains that the site is down, so that whoever's running that site or managing that site can jump in and try to problem solve.
Typically, the clients that are coming to you, and I know I kind of asked it in the beginning, but the clients that are coming to you, what is it that they usually want?
The clients that are coming to us usually want the ability to not worry about what could happen. They want to make sure that their site is not going to get hacked, that their site loads quickly, that they can rely on someone to manage everything that is required to be managed. And oftentimes they're using third parties, their site is hosted by another vendor. And so they want to come to us really for peace of mind and security, maintenance, and optimization.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably hard, and they're probably, I don't know, they may not even be that credible anymore to find a web designer, maintenance IT person who will not work on a subscription model. I mean, a number of years ago, if we just want to talk business for a second, organizations that were managing websites who would do it on a time and material basis, they switched to this subscription model. If you pay X amount every month, so that way we can monitor, because it was the model made sense for you guys, correct?
Well, a subscription model does make sense for us. You mentioned kind of a couple of different types of firms, and I'm a big believer that certain firms are good at certain things, and there are very few that are good at everything. You mentioned web design, you mentioned IT, and then you mentioned kind of maintenance firms like ours. And the project-based web design is a completely different model, right?
Right.
And so our model is a subscription-based model, primarily because we're reducing risk, we're protecting trust, and we're keeping sites fast and reliable, and that requires ongoing work. This is something that, whether it's daily, like backups, or monitoring, or weekly or biweekly, like updates, or monthly, like reports, and quarterly and annually, there are different tasks that have to be done. Because of the way the service is set up, subscription generally makes sense, and it certainly makes sense for our organization.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you the truth, the way I kind of look at it, it's like, it seemed that before the subscription model came about, everything would be okay for, just hypothetically, 11 months. And then all of a sudden something would break big because we weren't doing updates or we weren't doing something, things changed. And then I would get an $8,000 bill, or, I'm exaggerating, right? Instead, now I'm paying, $400 or $500 a month, and it's cheaper. And my site's up all the time. And so, to me, it worked well. It was something that I was looking for a number of years ago when I switched to a maintenance model plan for my own website, because of the many reasons we've just talked about right now. So I think in the long run, it's worked well for many organizations. Would you agree with that?
Oh, completely agree. And in the example that you gave, there's more than just the big bill at the end of the day. It's all of the stress and downtime during the chaos, during the issue. And so you're losing, again, brand credibility. You're losing users and donations while the issue takes place. Then you get this giant bill at the end of the day. And so the subscription model creates some continuity, reduced operational risk, faster, more secure websites over time, fewer emergencies and outages, and then better donor conversion and trust at the end of the day. And so spreading that out, having someone to rely on versus frantically trying to figure things out when something goes wrong, creates a much more manageable workflow and environment within your organization.
Let's change the topic a little bit. I know it's not your area of expertise in web design, but over the last year or two, how have you seen websites change for nonprofits?
Yeah, like you said, this is not really where we focus. But I would say, generally speaking, web designs have changed a bit for nonprofits in that they're really focused on call to actions and making a flat flow from a homepage or whatever landing page the potential donor or visitor came from, to getting them to that information as quickly as possible. So if it's a constituent trying to learn more information about their services, or a potential donor, or even a volunteer or employee, the key is scaling content so that it is digestible quickly, that there are fewer clicks to get there, and call to actions are prominent. And I'd say that's almost a general statement for all websites, but nonprofits specifically.
Um, I recently had a problem where uh, Google changed their algorithm. This is in November of last year. Google changed their algorithm, and it caught. This is for searching, and it my site got hurt um, because of some of the articles that we post, which Google felt was not relevant to financing, nonprofit financing, specifically for these podcasts, which we take these podcasts, we put them into an article, and the content's awesome. We have so many amazing guests like yourself, and what we learn here, and we put it into a 1,500 word article. And so my question to you is, what have you noticed with AI in general about any changes or differences that it's making in websites?
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Google changing the algorithm, and so that has a big impact on your site or anyone's site in which they were affected, and they may not be showing up as much. And so AI in particular, we've noticed a huge decrease in page visits. This is across the board for all of our clients, because we also work within professional services, law firms, and so on, in addition to nonprofits. And the use of chatbots, Claude, ChatGPT, but also the AI summaries that are being used more frequently in Google at the very top of the page, have made it so that users or visitors don't ever need to click onto the page. They get the information directly from the chat or the summary. And so I'd say that's one of the biggest changes for publishers or site owners, is that visits across the board are down, and they're not just down a little, they're significantly dropping. And so the focus, or the requirement to focus on all of the best practices and getting help from firms that focus on SEO and GEO or any sort of AI optimization, are probably good investments at this point in time, because unfortunately, I don't see the trend changing. Other than us going more deeper into AI.
To get a little bit more technical, because I'm curious, and our listeners might be as well. Uh, so you, if you looked at the who's visiting your website, and you'll often see a Google bot who's, and I don't know how it shows up, but you'll see Google indexing your website occasionally, right? What do you see? Like, can you see Chat GPT indexing, going over your site? Does it? Can you see it?
You actually can in Google Analytics. So again, this is a little bit outside of the scope of what we normally work on. We would
Mm.
integrate Google Analytics to help with reporting, make it easier for our customers to read the reports. But within Google Analytics, and those that really optimize Google Analytics, again, this might be more of a marketing SEO company, but you can absolutely see that you are getting traffic from an AI chatbot. I've seen it on our website, in fact. And so, where I'm not completely clear is whether or not a user has to click on the site from the AI to register that, or if the sourcing alone from the AI is what registers that in Google Analytics. But if you go into your Google Analytics and you start looking for your source traffic, you can filter through and find AI traffic.
So God, it's really unbelievable how these search engines and AI can just I don't like the word scan, how they can do all the websites in the world so fast.
Yeah, you broke up at the very beginning. So all I heard was they can do websites so fast.
They can scan them, and they can, in order for them to index it so that it can have part of their search engine, how they can scan all these websites so incredibly fast. You would think that it would be a drain on the resources of your own website. Like when they're indexing your website,
Yeah.
that maybe things slow down. Is that not
Yeah.
true?
Well, no, it shouldn't slow things down, and it is pretty amazing at how quickly
Yeah.
you can be indexed. And there are some tools out there as well. There's something called Google Page Speed Insights. If you naturally Google will find a new page or a blog post, but you can speed it up by submitting it in Google Search Console. But what Google or the AI are looking at, it's not the imagery or all of the markup or the formatting with the tables and the headings and the bold and such. They're reading it from a kind of a code perspective, and a lot like this is a really simplified example, but a text message on your phone, for example, is a very small piece of data in terms of weight, and the indexing is very similar. It's just plain text written in code, and so it's not taking a ton of time trying to understand the 400 megabyte image, for example. It's all text based and code focused.
Do you think so? Typically, with a website for a nonprofit, they might be working with an SEO company. They might be working with that same company might also be working with pay per click as well, to get more donations and their website up. Do you think that SEO companies slash, well, not so much pay per click, but SEO companies should be working closer with you?
With us or with the organization?
So let's say you have a nonprofit and they're using multiple different services for their website. So they might be using an SEO consultant to help them with search optimization, and then they're using someone like you to make sure your site is their site is up and continuously running. Do you think the SEO company should be more in touch with you with any issues, or no?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, our best partners are SEO companies and MSPs or IT companies, and so oftentimes we actually onboard our clients' SEO company into our maintenance platform, and they're submitting requests or reporting bugs because although we are not responsible for SEO campaigns or making sure that a website is appearing or any of the content generation. We don't do any of that. But when it comes to SEO, there are some technical factors which do fall on our plate. Most importantly, performance, page speed, load time. Google and AI love this stuff, and that's something that we do work on. And we work extremely close with SEO companies. We offer support services for our nonprofits and professional service firms when it comes to publishing, for example. The SEO company might actually create the content, and then we would go ahead and publish it for them and submit it with all of the proper headings and schema so that the search engines are reading it properly. Or if a SEO company has a particular request they want to make that might improve their placement, they would reach out directly to us through our maintenance platform. So absolutely, we want to be working with the marketing teams, the SEO teams, the IT teams. We consider ourselves one critical part of a healthy running organization.
So, last question. If you were to say the top three things that an executive director for a nonprofit or or a technology person for the nonprofit should be on the constant lookout for, what would you say those top three things are?
I would, if I'm understanding your question correctly, I'd probably say security, speed, and governance. You really want to make sure that the site is secure. You know, it's not just about response time, it's prevention, or security failures can damage long-term trust. On speed, you can't really optimize performance on an unstable infrastructure. It's an experience issue. And then on governance, it's, preventable issues are leadership issues. Clear ownership prevents emergencies. And so those are three really kind of top level things that they should be on the lookout for.
Cool. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank so very much Garrett Goodman from State WP for coming on today's podcast. And if you like today's podcast, please feel free to share it with a friend and subscribe on your favorite podcasting app as well. For all our other ones, we have over 300 episodes, and the guests like Garrett are fantastic. And also, if you'd like to potentially learn a little bit more about a line of credit for your nonprofit, please feel free to visit our website at nonprofitmbapodcast.com. Also, if there's any suggestions you have how I can make the Nonprofit MBA podcast better, please feel free to email me at steveh@financingsolutionsnow.com. Again, steveh@financingsolutionsnow.com. Garrett, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, our website is statewp.com. You can also find us on LinkedIn, which is LinkedIn/state-WP. But you can find us on any of the social media platforms or any of the major platforms if you search for State WP. Website is best, statewp.com.
Great. Thanks for coming on today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So just to close out, I just want to thank everybody who really is out there trying to make the world a better place. We need you, and please keep trying. We need your help. Have a great day, everybody. See you later.